Hello, my dear friends. You're in the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 19th of July of 2025. Today we have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And now it's become clear that the special military operation is not going to be finished by the end of the 2025. Most likely the war will continue in 2026. And for now, it's just sentences. It's just sentences and numbers of years. But when talking about people, about those who are living there, obviously we understand that the situation is going to be much worse than we can see right now. And this upcoming winter is going to be most likely the last winter and the worst winter since the beginning of the special military operation. And as for now, we see that Ukrainians believe, Zelensky believes that he still can do something. Australia's defense minister announced that Ukraine has received the first batch Abrams tanks shipped from Australia. Reports about the first shipment of tanks emerged back in May. Meanwhile, Western media writes that the Ukraine armed forces now have only 4 out of 31 tanks, Abrams tanks originally supplied by the United States, which means that either Zelensky is preparing another offensive operation or he is going just to stabilize the situation with these tanks. But when talking about offensive operation, it seems that for now it's unrealistic. In the first 6 months of this year, the prosecutor's office of Ukraine reported that it initiated more than 100,000 new criminal cases for desertion. Since 2022, about 230 such criminal cases have been initiated, which indicates that more soldiers have deserted the Ukraine army than the combined number of the UK, French and German armies altogether. But at the same time, we see that Zelensky is trying to play with Ukrainians. He is trying to make this show that most likely elections are going to take place. The elections will be held after the end of the war, but the Verkhovna Rada is already working on their preparations. That was stated by Ruslan Stefanchuk, the Speaker of the Parliament of Ukraine. According to him, the parliament is discussing a voting mechanism for military personnel and Ukrainians abroad, the participation of observers, as well as financing the electoral process. This is a very important question for Zelensky because he understands that maybe in some reality Ukraine and Zelensky is ready to, is able or can win this war, let's say, can force the Russians to accept, let's say, some terms that plays in Ukrainian favor. Maybe it is possible, but at the same time we see that from the other side Zelensky can maybe win or to stabilize this war or to lose this war with minimal losses, but at the same time he can lose this war after the war ends during the election process. And for these purposes now he starts thinking what to do with Ukrainians who are living in the Western countries in Europe and what to do with Ukrainians who are living on the territory of the Russian Federation. He can't cancel them, but at the same time he is trying to find a solution how not to make them participating in this electoral process. Now let's discuss a few more interesting videos before we start with the situation on the ground. And this is, as for me, this is a very interesting video, and when talking about these 3 videos that we're going to watch right now, it seems to me that something is wrong is happening with Ukraine. This video is not about the mobilization process. This video is about the Zaporozhye area and about thousands, maybe millions of locusts that are flying in this area and eating everything in the Zaporozhye direction. And I would like to remind you that this Zaporozhye direction has, and the Zaporozhye Oblast and Dnipro Oblast has the best, probably surface, the best land for different probably things that Ukrainians can grow there. And now we see that this area is completely polluted with these locusts, which most likely will destroy everything on their way. And this is not the only video that was published today. This is, for example, another video that was published completely by a different person, and here we can see thousands of them. Maybe once again we can see millions of them. I'm not a specialist in this field, in this area, about all these things, agricultural things, and about these locusts, but obviously the situation reminds me of something that I watched or saw in films that were made based on Bible, something like this. And this is probably the most interesting video, and as you can see, this is the city of Zaporozhye itself. And when talking about this video, obviously we can see millions of them. This is not a generated video by, say, AI. This is a real situation in Ukraine. Millions of locusts are flying in the Zaporozhye direction and destroying everything on their way. And this is the reason I told you that most likely this winter for Ukraine is going to be very difficult. And we are talking not about energy, not about war. First of all, we are talking about food. We are talking about this question. Anyway, let's wait and see. Maybe we have some specialists in our channel, in our subscribers, who can give us their own opinion regarding the situation and to tell us whether this situation is already critical or it's just a normal situation for a country like Ukraine. Once again, if you ask my opinion, the last time I saw something like this, it was a film about Bible and about, let's say, old times. And those moments were not very good for those people who faced the same problem. So now let's continue with the situation on the ground. And first, let's talk about the city of Pakovsk, where the Russians continue their offensive operation. The situation in the city of Pakovsk is very difficult. There are very heavy clashes, and everybody now knows where exactly the main clashes are taking place. The Russians are trying to secure Novoekonomichne, the Russians are trying to attack Antarodinske, the Russians are trying to improve their positions further in the northern direction, almost until the settlement of Shahove, and basically to take under control this pocket. But the most important thing that's probably for the previous 4 days after we got our first updates about the situation on the ground, we haven't received anything. We don't know for sure what exactly is happening here right now, whether the Russians are attacking, or maybe the Ukrainians managed to stabilize the situation, or maybe the Ukrainians were waiting for additional support or help, or maybe the Ukrainians are waiting for Australians' Abrams tanks, but this previous night they were destroyed somewhere in the area of Pavlograd. By the way, today we got the video. This video, for example, shows how exactly the Russians were attacking the main logistic hub of Ukraine, the city of Pavlograd, the city that Ukrainians used today to redeploy additional forces, maybe Australian Abrams tanks, in the direction of the city of Pakovsk. But according to this video and according to the map of approximate roads of attacks, most likely everything was destroyed. So what is happening right now, we don't know. We are talking about the city of Pakovsk. But one thing I know for sure, that currently the situation in the area of Pakovsk reminds me completely the situation that took place in the area of the city of Avdiivka during the Russian offensive operation of 2023 and 2024. I would like to remind you that during the first days of Russian offensive in 2023, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly, and the Russians established control over this landfill. And what happened after, nobody knew. So the Russians began offensive, let's say, in the southern part of Avdiivka, somewhere to the west, and we had almost nothing from this part. But probably in a week or 2 weeks or in 3 weeks, we got a very important video that shown us that during that silent process, the Russians managed to improve their positions in the southern direction, and first locations and first Russian soldiers were discovered, let's say, in the central part of the city of Avdiivka. And then everything collapsed. The entire Avdiivka was taken in Russians' hands probably within 2 or 3 weeks after the Russians during a month or two were moving through this residential part of the city of Avdiivka. So we believe that something like this is happening right now. The Russians are moving, both the Russians and the Ukrainians don't want to share with this information. The Russians don't want to reveal their positions, don't want to share with their success until they establish control over some strategical point. The Ukrainians from their side are trying to reduce as many as possible all updates about the situation because they want to save at least the coordination of their army. They want to save the spirit of the Ukrainian forces. So anyway, we understand that this can't last forever, and obviously sooner or later we're gonna start receiving first real updates with geolocations, maybe with flags, and we will start cutting this map into Russian favor, and this is going to be the beginning of this disaster. Now let's move further. Now let's talk about the Sever's direction. During the previous 2 days, we discovered a lot of icons from this area. So, for example, this is the picture of the Sever's direction, let's say from the 13th of July of 2025. Too many attacks, too many strikes, too many FPV drones were recorded. The Russians, it seems, are about to finish their final preparation before the beginning of another assault operation. And this time, the Russians most likely will try to take the city of Seversk, or at least some eastern part of the settlement. During the previous 24 hours, we had this video where we can see lots of attacks, how the Russians were attacking the city of Seversk, how the Russians were destroying Ukrainian vehicles, but probably this video is the most important. In this video, we can see how Russians were filming, how probably Russian artillery forces were bombing and attacking the northeastern part of the city with multiple launch rocket systems and with tall flamethrower systems, which means that the Russians are very, very close to this part. So, if you ask my opinion, we expect that during the next days, we're going to receive another attempt of attack from the Russian side, with the purpose to improve their positions at least to the east of the city of Seversk and to secure the village of Serebryanka completely. Something huge is going to happen in this direction. Anyway, let's wait and see for the next updates. As for the Constantinovka direction, during the previous 24 hours, we haven't received anything additional to updates we've discussed during the previous video. The Russians, according to Deep State, control currently around 90 or 80% of the settlement. According to pro-Russian resources, the southern part of Alexander Kalinova was already secured by the Russians. The Russians are about to cut the Sherbinovka pockets and to force the Ukrainians to fall back from this area. The Russians at the same time establish complete control over the main evacuation roads, and every time the Ukrainians try to use this road for evacuation, the Russians attack them immediately, giving them no chances for a successful evacuation. As for the South Donetsk direction, the Russians are moving further in the northwestern direction, and the most important is the video from the settlement of Voskresenka published by the Ukrainian side. And here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians with FPV drones and their positions. Of course, this episode was geolocated. As you can see, a building was destroyed. This video is very important because I would like to remind you that yesterday the Ukrainian sources published another video with Ukrainian flag in the most northern part of the settlement, and based on this video we have lots of probably fights between the signatures, because according to this video everybody must update their maps, but now we got additional geolocations, and now it's clear that Ukrainian flags yesterday were just another media attack with the purpose to show that both the village of Voskresenka and Yalta are under complete Ukraine control. But at the same time, we see that the Russians resume their attempts to attack in the direction of Novopavlovka. As for now, the Russians are trying to approach the settlement of Filia. If they take this village under complete control, this will allow the Russians to move further in the direction of Novopavlovka. It seems that the time of Novopavlovka is about to start. The Russians will try to take this village under complete control in coming days. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds you, we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.